Very good evening, my present and future listeners. This is stream that I have taken up aims at familiarizing you with my most favorite game and also with what reasons I have to consider it as my most favorite game. Perhaps you know the general title for the contents of my YouTube channel is language, literature and culture. Language, literature and culture, the general introduction to the title of my YouTube channel under which I have been putting contents, making contents, creating contents. So this evening, this late evening, I am going to make use of culture related to which I'll be speaking. Though culture in its core implies topics that we have generally in the books of sociology, psychology, and all that. People talk about folk culture, people talk about wedding culture, people talk about family culture. So, of course, sports also is one of the aspects of our day to day life. Sports and games are very important to make our life, in fact, cultured. We are well cultured, highly cultured, not only because we have good education, we have good living standards, we have good houses to live in, we have high class technology, but also because we have gardens, we have stadiums, we have parks, we have open fields where we gather and we play or we run individually or in groups. So, games and sports have a great importance in our life. In modern days, we see that those people who excel in games and sports, they are world celebrities, globally known. They earn a lot, they travel a lot, they enjoy their lives, and they are loved like anything. I also love most of the great sports people, even those sports people who are not great now, but who are to become great in the future. I encourage in my society, in my neighborhood, uh, children, young people, even people of my age, that we should play whenever we have time. Instead of gossiping, arguing on useless topics, arguments for the sake of arguments, or gossiping on issues which have no relevance to our health and mind, it's better that we play some physical games instead of video games, virtual games. I always give much importance to physical games. You just walk down a mile in the morning, in the evening. You just walk with your friend. You just have brisk walks with your friend. You just move alone if you don't have a friend, and move with meditation, looking at the waves in the lake. If you want to go to the lakeside, go and you walk around the lake. And if you are tired, then have a rest for a few minutes and then walk again, or just make a few jumps to get at the clusters of leaves which are on a twig, beautiful twig, and which you can't touch, so you have to jump. So to be a sportive, to feel like a sports people, to have a gaming mind, or to have good physical games in mind, and playing them, or even watching people play. Some of the games we don't play, but we have interest in them, so we watch them and we play with, watch them, encourage them, give them boosters through our encouraging words and all that. So altogether, games and sports are one of the mainstays of my life. Without games and sports, playing some of them or thinking about some of them, I think my life would be much boring. Whenever life becomes a bit low, then I take up to some of the thinking, some of the thoughts on games. I start moving. I just take a ball in my hand and just toss it up, catch it, again toss it up, again catch it, and for a few minutes, I feel that I am better now after having done all that. So this evening, I'm going to tell you that my most favorite game is table tennis. Table tennis I started playing when I was in class 5 or 6 in the school. At that time, I did have a fascination for football also. I remember when I was in middle school, I used to play for my class. No, in the school there would be matches, football matches between sections, between classes, class 8 versus class 6 versus class 7, something like that. Even in the high school, I remember when I was in class 8 and I used to stand first in the class. So I didn't have much time to play at that time because when I went to the high school, I had to concentrate on my studies because I was a student of science and because I had been standing first in the class, so I had to maintain that position. So I was a bit hesitant getting time off my studies and using that playing games. But football has also been an attraction. Cricket later on, I didn't play much, but I played a little. I saw how a person, a friend of mine from my class, was the captain of my college team, and he was an all-rounder. He would play very nicely. He was a very nice, handsome person, and I would go to encourage him in the ground, and I would also be helping him in so many ways. But table tennis has been my most loved game right from the beginning. I played at competitions also. I played with friends in the hostels wherever I lived at the ISC level, BA level, MA level. But it became a passion when I finished my MA exams. And in the hostel, uh, I had to vacate hostel only after results were out. I could, means others could stay on until the results were out. But after the exams, people want to go out. They want to come back home. They want to go on a tour of a city. So I stayed for 10 days after the exams were over. And I remember 2, 3 nights I played until 2:30 a.m., 3:30 a.m. And then would walk out of the table tennis hall and go with my friend to sit on the banks of the Ganges where the hostel was situated, postgraduate hostel. Uh, so the point is that table tennis is my most beloved game. I love it. I play it. I play it because it gives me a sense of freedom. When I teach in the classes and when I teach students who are good, and generally my students have been good. I have taught at government colleges. I have taught at St. Xavier's in Kathmandu. I have taught at St. Xavier's in Patna also for some time. I did some classes in Calcutta also. So wherever I have been, I have explored opportunity to play table tennis. If not with my colleagues, with the students, because every year at St. Xavier's in Kathmandu, competitions are held, tournaments are held in the name of Father Charlie. Father Charlie was a teacher. He was one of the administrators of St. Xavier's College, Kathmandu. And when he left this world, so many events, programs were named after him. And yearly table tennis championship at the college is after his name. So table tennis, you play and you have the sense of freedom. So I wanted to say that when I have good classes, I enjoy my classes. I love my students. And most of the students have always loved me. I had many, many letters from scores and scores and scores and scores and scores of students. I have letters from foreign cities where students have been admitted. My students means our students, and I too was one of their teachers. So when they went to America, Australia, they would be asked sometimes as to who might have influenced their studies in the positive direction, who might have inspired them about life and life's interest and all that. Then many of them named me also, and I played with them. So I remember them not because they named me as one of their inspirers, one of their good teachers, but I also remember them because many of them I played table tennis with. Some of the students of mine who have become doctors now. So sometimes when they have time, we get together, we meet one another, and we play for some time. Table tennis, no, uh, uh, it's very easy. It's very easy to handle this game, and you don't need much coaching sort of thing. You don't need much money also to buy equipments. You need a couple of rackets, good rackets. You may have, suppose I have 6, 7 rackets, but 2 rackets are always ready. Some old rackets are there to remember when they have been played with. Some new rackets are there in the store, and 2 rackets are there, which I carry whenever I go to play this game. And I feel then that life is, if life has any enjoyment, it is in this game. Sometimes, no, having a cricket ball in hand and just twirling it or trying to give it some sort of what they call a spinning position, a spinning condition, that also is a pleasure. Sometimes you try your hand at badminton, that is also all right. But cricket as a game has to be played outside. It's an outdoor game. And badminton also is an outdoor game. You may have badminton in the hall also, covered hall, but for that also you need certain atmospheric conditions suitable to play. For cricket, you need conditions of weather and all that. You need huge resources. You need so many people. And then in cricket, you have this danger also. If you are a bowler, if you are a batsman, if you are a fielder, means whatever you are in the game of cricket, you may get injured, sometimes very seriously wounded also. And all of us know that at intervals around the world, some of the cricketers have lost their lives. One of the very nice cricketer from Australia, he was so very popular also, and so very, you can say, important for his team. And he lost his life 6, 7 years ago in Australia. One Indian cricketer also, he got so much badly wounded in one of the matches in Bangladesh that he died. If I am correct, his name was Raman Lamba. In the game of badminton, which also is one of my favorites, you don't have that much of danger to face or that much of risk, but you have to play that in conditions mm, which are suitable. And most of the places you don't have covered halls, you have to play outside, and you need lights in the evening, and this wind should not be very gusty, then you can play. So I play table tennis because it's my passion. But how it might have become my passion, why it came to be loved so much by me, when I started probing a bit on it, then I started thinking of the advantages, thinking of the conveniences, thinking of the absence of handicaps in relation to this game. You can play anytime. You can play with your family members. It's a very good exercise in a room, maybe 12 by 12, 12 by 14. Even a smaller, suppose, if the hall is, suppose you have a proper table tennis hall, then it's much better. It's much, you can say, it's much of a thing that gives you joy, that you are elated that you have a proper table tennis hall and proper table tennis board that is of international standard. You have proper balls and all that, rackets and all that. But even if you don't have such a hall, you don't go to college, you want to don't go to a club, you want to play in your own place, in your own residence, and you have a separate room. It's not a proper table tennis hall. And the table tennis, table tennis, this table for playing tennis also is not of high standard, international standard. Sometimes you make your own tea table as a sort of table, and you put, suppose you can say, some books or something in the middle, and then you just make two sides of the same table and you play, as I used to play in my childhood with my brother. So it's suitable. You don't have to go outside, and you don't have any risk of getting injured or wounded. Yes, these days people have started playing with colored balls, and you have what you call sometimes heavy also. The balls that we played during our college days, very light and generally white balls. But of late, people have started playing with, you can say, yellow, red, so many multicolored balls sometimes they use. Multicolored in the sense that at a time you use yellow, then another time some reddish, another time pink and all that. But white ball, I think, is the standard, and that is time tested. Good quality white balls, much better. So one of the reasons is that you don't need many people. You just need one of your family members, your brother, your sister. If you are married, you can play with your wife. If your mother is interested in game, you can play with your mother, with your father. And if your family is very famous for having great health, then you can play even with your grandma, grandpa. It may be an exaggeration, it may sound, but there are people I have seen, sorry, I have seen them playing with their grandpa. And then you have this advantage that you play 5 games, then you just sit down at the side, you have a cup of coffee, you have a cup of tea, you have a glass of juice, or you just sit quiet, and then again you start. But if you are a very, what you call, passionate player, you have stamina, then you can play at a stage 15 games, 20 games. I remember I have played at a stage from 6:30 in the morning up to around 1:30 in the afternoon, about 51 games. Of course, we can say rests at intervals, means after 10 games like that. We had juice, we had water, whatever. But I remember, and that is the record so far. Although I had dreamt of extending it to 100 games, but that has not been possible so far. 51 games uh, uh, in one day, in one session, continuous session, with a few breaks, and that is the record so far. So table tennis is my dream game. And when I see matches, international matches on the television, when the Spanish players play, Chinese players play, Koreans play, even Japanese players play, from India also, people play, and they sometimes they win medals also at the Asian Games and also Commonwealth Games and all in table tennis. So I love them. And when suppose there is a cricket match, and there is international cricket match between two teams, good teams that I love, that I have interest in, and table tennis match between two good teams, then first I go to table tennis match. I, I spend 1 hour, half an hour. So when I am satisfied, and if the other match, cricket match, is very interesting, it is of significance in terms of what we call ratings and all, and then I switch over to cricket. But table tennis is my priority. I can play 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. I can play, and I get suppose some food also, some food of my liking, some suppose lines up some good poems to get recited, to read a page from a beautiful story at the intervals, or just to have a few, suppose you can say, what you call jokes that we have seen in our textbooks, that bits of humor. I remembered in some of the textbooks that I read as a student, and some of the textbooks that I have handled as as texts to be taught in my classes, then I have gone through. the sections at the ends of different lessons, bits of humor. And so some of the bits of humor have been memorable, and I have not forgotten them, and I won't ever forget them. So at times we share jokes also. The partner, the other person, also has jokes. He also brings some jokes because we are almost of the same temperament, of the same tastes and interests. So it becomes very easy for us to understand one another, each other, and to share jokes also, and to enjoy. But one thing I must tell you, that at competitions, of course, you have to win. You have to go to the rounds, higher rounds, and all. But when I play for, you can say, exercises, friendly games, and all that, when I can play 51 games, maximum I have played so far, then I don't go for wins and all that. I just play for pleasure. I try to make shots. I try to return shots. I try to, you can say, spin. I try to make different kinds of, suppose you can, serves to my opponents. But losing, suppose, higher number of games and winning only a few games, that situation doesn't upset me. I don't get upset. I don't get sad. Sometimes I see the one who plays with me is more concerned about having points, winning points, and counting higher number of wins. And sometimes even suppose grunting also. Sometimes, not everybody that I play with, but some of the people I play with. But I have made it a principle that if I have to play for pleasure, for joy, then I don't have to take my defeats at heart, because these defeats are nothing. It's for exercise. You play for exercise. You play for your attempts at making good shots. And when you make good shots, then that gives you immense joy. Sometimes I feel like having camera, video camera, you can say, installed around, so that the good games that we play, or the good shots that we make, me and my partner, or the person who plays with me, then and when you suppose see those things, then you are surprised also. Sometimes I even make these words out. Rather, I shout, world class, world class, world class. Shout, not in that sense of shouting, but shouting is a bit louder I become. Oh, what a shot it was. Really world class, wasn't it? And that way I enjoy. So, table tennis is my most favorite game. You can play at your own residence, in one of the rooms of your own residence, with your brother, with your sister, with any member of your family. You can go to any nearby park, you can any club, and you can play there. Even in a park, also you have a place, you can say, separately made for table tennis. You have a seat over, and you can play. So you have different kinds of places. You have the places where you play, where you find international standards infrastructure. You have places where you have, okay, just so. But if you have a passion for this game, you can enjoy everywhere. The degrees of enjoyment may vary, but you definitely have some degree of enjoyment playing this game. Table tennis is my beloved game. It's my most favorite game. I love you, table tennis, and I know you love me too. I love you, you love me. The game, I personify you, and you always be my companion as long as I live. Please don't go out of my heart. Please don't slip down from the list of my favorite games. You always remain at the top. My table tennis always having a top position in the list of my favorites. I salute you, my table tennis. I love you. And please continue loving me. Let us have let us have companionship lifelong. Even if I die and you remain, I will come back and I will recognize you. I will call you. I will give you a call and you will come and embrace me. I will embrace you. And we shall begin our relationship once again for a lifetime. Table tennis, I love you. My listeners, present and prospective, I, I greet you. I love you. I respect you. And I thank you so much for listening now and for being my listeners in the future. God bless you. God bless me. God bless us all. Bye bye.